This should be going. All right. Good afternoon to um, those in southern China and northern Vietnam. We are going to be mainly focusing on Matmo as it makes its landfall in the Leizhou Peninsula or near Zhangjiang. So, just making sure that you all can hear me. Please let me know in the chat. In theory, this should be working. I'm going to be sharing the stream. Please tell me that's the right thumbnail. Yes, it is. Okay. So that's working. That's working. And in theory, that will be working as well. Okay. Can I get confirmation in the chat that this is working? Okay, there we go, Typhoon Lover, hello. You're always first here. Hello, small YouTuber. Alright, so we're going to be discussing Matmo, and we're going to be doing a brief update on it, and then we'll get right into the live stream. Alright, or like more into its landfall and things like that. But briefly looking at it right now on weather radar, where it's located at, there it is. Its eye wall is impacting Zhangjiang right now, likely with typhoon force winds, potentially even major typhoon force winds, or at least gust. Haikui as well, getting in on that on the southern eye wall of the storm. Its eye is rather large, but let's first discuss the impacts now. Its forecast cone over the next 48 hours or so. It is likely a Category 3 typhoon right now, either high-end Category 2 or low-end Category 3, and it is making landfall in around over the Leizhou Peninsula. Yep, Leizhou Peninsula, and it is expected to move towards Guangxi Province, making another landfall potentially as a Category 2 strength typhoon. Before it weakens to a tropical storm, tropical depression, remnant low, and dissipating by around hour 60. Now, looking at the impacts here, there is a broad area of marginal impacts, which does include Hong Kong, the western half of Guangdong Province, the western and southern third or southern two-thirds of Guangdong Province or Guangxi Province, and also northern Vietnam and far northern Laos. This is a majority of a rain threats in the areas more inland and a wind threats in the areas more close to the coast. That is due to tropical storm force winds. Now, looking at the slight impacts, it does still include southwestern Guangdong Province, southern Guangxi Province, and northeastern Vietnam there, and also northern Hainan Island in that slight category. Majority of that's going to be in the form of wind, whereas the more inland areas here is going to be more in the form of rain. There is also a corridor here of moderate impacts, which is going to be in the form of typhoon force winds. And there is the possibility we could be seeing major impacts along the eastern portions of the Leizhou Peninsula, wherever it is making landfall. So now I briefly want to touch on the broad view of tropics, since there is a lot going on across the world right now. We have the remnants of Imelda, which are moving to the northeast, should dissipate over the next day or so. We also have a tropical wave in the North Atlantic here with a 10 or 20% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 60% chance over the next 7 days. That could pose a threat to the Leeward Islands and eventually on towards the Lesser Antilles, or in Greater Antilles and parts of Puerto Rico, could become a hurricane. In the eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Octave here, which could become a brief hurricane as it meanders to the east. And we also have Tropical Storm Priscilla here, which could become a hurricane and potentially Category 2 strength hurricane as it meanders westwards. A tropical storm watch is in effect for the coast of Mexico. There's also another disturbance there with a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days. Could parallel the coast of Mexico and become a possible hurricane. In the western Pacific, we of course have Typhoon Matmo, which is moving into Guangdong province of China. But we also have two other systems. We have Tropical Storm 28W, which is now Halong, which is expected to become a Category 4 typhoon. Let me actually pull up that forecast. I should have done that earlier. All right, now pulling up Matmo's forecast, here's a look at, Halong's forecast. It is expected to become a tropical storm, which it has done already. Right now, it's located roughly around here. It is expected to become a typhoon over the next 36 hours or so, before becoming a major typhoon over the next 60 hours. So by day 3, it is expected to become a Category 4 strength typhoon before it begins to slowly make a curve towards the northeast and weakening quickly to a Category 2 typhoon by around day 5. I do want to emphasize that the uncertainty is very high here, so we do not know where it's going. It could move closer to Japan and it could move closer to Taiwan in the Ryukyu Islands. So it is fairly uncertain, but this is the current forecast here. For Japan, marginal impacts possibly for southern South Korea as well, the Ryukyu Islands as well, and that's now slight impacts as well for southern Japan there, and moderate impacts will also be possible for some of those areas. That is due to a wind threat. The majority of this is going to be in the form of wind impacts. Now, going back to the overview of tropics there, we also have another disturbance after that, Invest 95W, with a 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 40% chance over the next 7 days. That could also threaten the Ryukyu Islands and mainland Japan. In the Indian Ocean, we have O1b, which is a tropical depression just barely over Nepal, which should dissipate over the next day or so. And we also have Cyclone Shakti here, which is a Category 1, but is expected to quickly weaken due to the drier environment. Let's see here. So, if there's any questions you have, you can leave them in the comments, and or in the live chat, and I will answer them soon. Let's see. I am going to let's see. All right. Here, I'm going to take a brief, or no, I'm going to discuss this a little bit more, and then I'll take a break. So here's a look at the latest visible satellite imagery on Typhoon Matmo, which you can see a very large eye here, and very well-defined eye feature there, swirling around and moving and nearing the Leizhou Peninsula, including Zhangjiang, or Zhaojiang province, or Zhaojiang city. Here, let me make sure. Zhangjiang province, or city, excuse me. And we can see that on radar imagery here as well. But looking at visible imagery, we can see it is a fairly large system here with its bands, with a nice outer band to the south there. Looking at infrared imagery, we can see it kind of struggling to wrap the convection around it because it's such a large eye. It's hard to consolidate and intensify further. So it's really just a massive eye there. And you can see some of those outer bands impacting Hainan Island. So looking at sea surface temperatures, they are fairly lower than what they could be, currently at around 27 to 28 degrees Celsius, with some pockets of up to 29 degrees Celsius as it nears the Leizhou Peninsula. Now looking at the radar imagery of the system, there is an island already in the eye of the system here, and it is currently approaching the coast of the Leizhou Peninsula here, and Zhangjiang is already getting the eye wall of the storm, the main core of it. Same with Haikui here. Some areas here are getting gusts of over 104 kilometers an hour. Now I do want to touch on the winds right now. This is at least from the European run, showing sustained winds of around 130 kilometers an hour. Let me do some quick conversions. Okay, so that is typhoon force winds here. This is the latest European run here, and this is what it's showing right now in terms of winds. Anywhere in that blue or anywhere in that green shading is likely experiencing gale force winds. Here, whoops, let me actually zoom in a little bit more here. Yep, so you can see the coast of Guangdong and including nearly Hong Kong getting in at that, and then including Guangxi province as well, and including parts of the Gulf of Tonkin there, and northern Hainan Island getting in at that tropical storm force winds, gale force winds. And you can see the areas getting damaging winds, mainly impacting portions of the Leizhou Peninsula, but mainly out to sea right now, and including parts of southern Guangdong province, and nearly eclipsing Zhangjiang. And you can see the typhoon force winds there highlighted in that orangish color. there, which could be approaching the coast of the Lejiao Peninsula. There is also the possibility of Category 2 force wind gusts there, or winds, sustained winds there of up to 140 kilometers an hour. Now, looking at the wind gust of the system here, we can see wind gust of up to 200 kilometers an hour is being forecast from the European run. And let's take a look at wind accumulation. I want to touch on that. Can I not add that? Yep, there we go. Okay, wind accumulation from the European run. This will be over the next, let's do next few days or so. So the strongest wind gusts are expected to be around 215 kilometers an hour. Areas in Zhangjiang could see up to 165 kilometer an hour winds on this run. Haikui could see up to 150 kilometer an hour winds, and the Lejiao around 130 kilometer an hour winds. But generally, the peninsula could see anywhere from 130 to 180 kilometer an hour winds, with some isolated gusts even higher than that. That island there could see nearly 200 kilometer an hour winds in terms of wind gust here. Hong Kong could see tropical storm force gust there, gale force gust around 60 to 70 kilometer an hour winds. Parts of southern Guangdong province there around 100 to 130 kilometer an hour winds, and Guangxi province could see up to 150 kilometer an hour wind gust, and northern Vietnam could see anywhere between gale force gust of around 50 kilometers to 130 kilometer an hour winds, depending on where you are located in the country. Alright, hold on. I am going to take a quick break real quick, and then I am going to hold on, and then I'm just going to eat something real quick, and then we'll get more into it. And I'll see if I can bring in some new people into this live stream, depending on how well it does. Now, just excuse me for one moment, and then I will be back. Let me see. Is this thing right here? Let me just change this real quick. Where do I do this? Tools. Whoops. Sorry about that. Just changing the timing here. This would be up until around 1:18 p.m. And then I will be right back. All right, testing, testing. Thank you all so much for waiting on that. Bro, okay. Anyways, let's get back to the storm here. So again, the eye is starting to clip some portions of Leizhou Peninsula right there on the southeastern tip of it. And we can see the eye is continuing the center of it. That's when the landfall will happen. Looks to be in around 90 minutes or so, 97 minutes. So an hour and 37 minutes until the center makes landfall. But we could already be seeing major impacts going on right now in Zhangjiang as that eye wall is starting to hit and pound the northern portions. Alright, and briefly discussing that wind or the rainfall forecast, I do want to touch on, let's touch more on the wind accumulation forecast. This is the American run over the next few days. It shows a lot less totals, but around 130 kilometers. Let's see if there's the German model, if that goes any higher. No, I'd say the European run is doing the best job of wind. Right now, where we could see totals as high as, or wind accumulations, like highest wind amounts of up to 215 kilometer an hours. In some parts in Zhangjiang, could see up to 166 kilometer an hour winds. That would, let me just double check there. And that could be underdoing it. They could be seeing even higher wind gust than that from this system. And then parts in the Gulf of Tonkin could see anywhere from around 90 to 180 kilometers an hour. Alright, so I'll answer some questions as we're going through it. So, could Halong become a Category 5? Yes, it could. Is Matmo a Category 3? And you're asking, it's probably around a high-end Category 2 or low-end Category 3 right now. We can see on radar, the radar presentation is pretty impressive there with a solid eye and solid core there, completely surrounding the center there. So very solid eye wall. However, on infrared imagery, it does not look that impressive. I'm going to briefly pull up off-stream satellite estimates just so I can get a better idea of how strong, how strong it likely is. Looks like anywhere between low-end Category 2 and low-end Category 3 seems to be the intensity estimates. And that's why in the cone here it's highlighted a possibility of major impacts. Not quite sure if it's going to be directly a major strike out of it. Alright, now I briefly want to touch on rainfall totals over the next few days here. This is from the European run. Over the next 5 days or so, and this is a little bit less than that, Zhangjiang could see up to 120 millimeters of rain. Parts of southern Leizhou Peninsula could see up to 200 millimeters of rain. Northern Hainan Island, including Haikui, could see up to 40 millimeters of rain. Parts of southern Guangxi province could see up to 200 millimeters of rain. Let me get that to load up here. Yeah, 230 millimeters of rain. Portions of northern Vietnam could see anywhere from 60 to 250 millimeters of rain. And then further inland could see general totals of around 50 to 100 millimeters of rain. That's at least on the European run. Discussing the American run now, showing lower totals there, upwards of around 230 millimeters of rain for southern Guangxi province. Leizhou gets in at around 100 to 130 millimeter accumulations there, and Zhangjiang gets in at around 100 millimeters. Northeastern Vietnam gets at around 130 millimeters of rain. Now let's compare that with the German run. The German run does show higher totals in portions of southwestern Leizhou Peninsula there, with rainfall accumulations of around 230 millimeters and just offshore totals of around 280 millimeters. Looking further west towards Guangxi province, totals of around 70 to 170 millimeters of rain, and northern Vietnam could see anywhere between 65 to 240 millimeters of rain, at least on this model run. All right. What's 266 kilometers an hour? What are you asking about that? So the wind here, the wind gust over the next several days here, if we look at the European depiction of the wind gust, there could be areas just off, just away from land there. Is this actually working or what happened? Is this a new model run? I'm not sure. Anyways, so they are showing wind totals there. I believe this might be actually a new. Okay. Anyways, yep. So wind, the max wind gust could be up to 210 kilometers an hour, just to the east of the Leizhou Peninsula. But areas around Zhangjiang could see up to 170 kilometer an hour winds, maybe even higher than that. The Leizhou Peninsula gets up to 130 kilometer an hour winds, where areas along the coast could see 160 kilometers an hour. And this island here could see up to 200 kilometer an hour wind gust. You can see the area of at least gale force gust here and why this is going to be impacting such a large area. Anywhere in green really is going to be those areas of gale force gust at least. And that area in yellow could see some damaging impacts, including power outages, downed trees, that kind of stuff, some structural damage as well to very vulnerable areas. Anywhere highlighted in this area could see some very some minor damage, including, like I said, power outages. Areas in here could see typhoon force gusts there, so if you're highlighted in this area, you could see some damage to some more well-built structures. And anywhere in those red and pink areas, those are going to be seeing even worse impacts. And yes, the reason the live stream is late is due to the fact that it's a landfall coverage stream. We're mainly focusing on the landfall. Alright, so yes, the eye is continuing to approach the Leizhou Peninsula. Already have an island in that eye. We're about to see another island starting to peek into that eye. That would be Donghai Island. And then we'll reach Leizhou and the Leizhou Peninsula. Looks like even Zhangjiang could get in that eye. Alright, let's look at some of these other questions here. Could Halong impact Japan? Yes. On here, it is looking like it will deliver at least marginal impacts to parts of Japan, and at least slight impacts, depending on how close it gets. This is mainly accounting for uncertainty. There is the possibility that some parts of Japan could see moderate impacts to even major impacts. It's just a little bit far out, so that's why only moderate impacts are highlighted as a possibility. Over the coming days, though, I will be releasing more forecast on the system, and we'll see. We'll get a better idea on it, and there will probably be more tropical updates on this system. Mackenzie asks if Priscilla could become a major hurricane. Let's look at the latest ensemble forecast on that. This is the Google AI model. Category 3 looks to be out of around 50 ensembles, only around 9 of them show it, so I'd say it's around a 20% chance or so of it becoming a major hurricane, so it does exist, the possibility that it could become a major hurricane. Looks like this other system could become a Category 2, interesting that the Hurricane Center is not forecasting that. Your opinion on Bualoy's historic tornado outbreak in Vietnam. I've heard about that. I haven't looked at it too much, though. Again, though, these systems will have tornadoes embedded in them, especially on the northeastern quadrant here, at least from this system. Right around here, all these outer bands could have some possible embedded tornadoes in them, so that will be a concern, but not for where it's making landfall right now. Again, your main concern is going to be the wind right now, and so you need to be hunkered down in a sturdy structure, especially if you're in the western portions of the Leizhou Peninsula, and also if you're in portions of the border between around Guangdong Province and Guangxi Province. I believe that's where that is located. Yep. If you're in that border, you have a little bit more time to prepare. Your preparation should be nearing completion right now, as you are about to get hit by the core of the system. Especially in areas like Cheban, Yingpeng, those areas. You need to be preparing to get into your safe space right now, as the eye wall continues to approach your area. If we look at the progression over the last hour, we can see it is starting to approach you all, and you are getting into that outer rain shield and almost outer core of it. And over the past 6 hours, you've been hit by some outer bands, and it is approaching you. Let's see. Shakti moving to Oman? Question mark. That system, if I pull up that, briefly touch on the wind forecast there. It isn't really expected to impact. Let's go to satellite on here. It isn't expected to impact Oman too badly, but some of those outer clouds are impacting those areas. If we look at the rainfall forecast over the next, or let's start on the wind forecast there. It could be a little bit gusty along the eastern portions of Oman. Could see some gale force gust. Winds of around 60 kilometers an hour along those portions there. And parts near the center could see wind gusts of up to 180 kilometers an hour, at least on the European run. American run, if we see the differences between that, still seeing some gale force gusts there along the eastern portions of Oman, and the German run showing around the same thing for there. Most of the impacts will be just out to sea though. If we look at the rainfall accumulation there, no rain happening in Oman on these model runs, I doubt. Even the European run and the American run, no rain really impacting Oman, at least on this run showing maybe totals of up to 17 millimeters, so not a whole lot really at all. I do want to touch on the extreme forecast, though, for the rain there. Though there is record-breaking rainfall happening out to sea right now because of this system. Anywhere highlighted in red there is record-breaking. So it's very rare for these kind of systems to form here out in the dry Arabian Sea. So the fact that this is dumping a large amount of rain, up to 300 millimeters plus of rain, is pretty historic, at least in this portion of the ocean and time of a year. Chase, can you show the vorticity inflow and outflow of Matmo? Sure, let's pull up that on. Let's do the HAFS model here. Generally showing what it looks like here, and if we look at vorticity, the lower vorticity, you can see the broad circulation here. Pretty broad. It is including Hainan Island, all these areas in that broad overview of a circulation. Now, if we zoom out a bit and we look at the upper level pattern, whoops, wrong storm. Here, it does have a favorable outflow right now, and that's what's allowed for it to rapidly intensify. So you can see the outflow there fanning out to the north and then eastern, or mainly, let's see, northern sides of it there, and it looks to be parts of the western side. So if we look at some of that imagery on here, we can see it's starting to try to fan more to the north there, but also portions to the west there. Doesn't look too great, mainly to the east of it. We can see more of that outflow there. And that should be evidence on that model run. Any updates on the South Indian Ocean? Okay, I'll briefly touch on that. South Indian Ocean, I doubt there's going to be anything there. Ooh, okay, there is something. There is a signal now. Let's see, how long has this been? Okay, looks like the South Indian Ocean now. There is a signal starting to emerge there. This is by around day 10 to 16, so pretty far out. But it is a signal nonetheless, so something to watch out for. Let's see if any of the ensembles are showing anything there. The longer range, some of them there, and let's see the American ensembles if there's anything showing up there. Not really. We can take a look at the Google AI ensembles if there's anything popping up on here. Yep, a couple of those members showing something developing by the Seychelles Islands. Interesting to see one of them becoming like a Category 4. Alright. Is 95W moving towards Japan again? Let's look at the latest ensemble members here from the Google AI Google AI ensembles. It does look like it will be nearing Japan, but it does look like it's going to be curving off towards the east. Although some of those members, like one of them has it making landfall as a typhoon, but some of them have it just nearing the coast there as a possible major typhoon. Overall, the consensus looks like it's going to be a tropical storm or weak typhoon, and it looks like it's going to be moving to the east of Japan. It is going to be moving towards the general direction of Guam, though, and before it reaches portions of Japan. Atlantic system can become a hurricane. We can touch on that. So the system has increased dramatically in support recently for it becoming a tropical storm, but overall, hurricane doesn't seem that likely. Seems like just a moderate or strong tropical storm right now. It does have the potential to become a hurricane in the longer range there by the time it starts nearing the Leeward Islands in around the next 3 to 4 days. See, any updates on the Eastern Pacific and Western Pacific? Yes, in the Eastern Pacific, of course, we have two tropical cyclones active, both tropical storms with winds of 45 miles an hour and 65 miles an hour, respectively. But there is also a disturbance after that with a 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 50% chance over the next 7 days, as it parallels the coast of Mexico. You also ask about the Western Pacific, and yes, we do have a lot going on there. We, of course, have Typhoon Matmo, but we also have Tropical Storm Halong here, and then we also have Invest 95W. So we have three things we're watching in the Western Pacific right now. The Southwest Indian Ocean will apparently be active in mid-October because of the MJO. Yeah, that makes sense. Andrew says, hello, question, is 95W, or is Invest 95W forming, and will it affect the Philippines in the coming days? Well, 95W, it appears like that system is going to be meandering away from the Philippines. It will enter the Philippine Sea, just barely, and it will be nearing Guam. This is going to be, in timing, this would be Monday nights. By around Tuesday morning, it seems like it will be over Guam, potentially as a tropical depression or a storm. And then by Tuesday night, and by Wednesday morning, continuing to meander to the northwest. Doesn't seem like it's going to really impact the Philippines. Let's see, there is a signal there, some members showing something impacting northern Luzon. I can briefly look at what that is, if anything's popping up on the AI model. But this disturbance we've been tracking for a while there. This one right here, it was by the international dateline earlier, right over here a few days ago. Not really seeing anything developing by the Philippines there. There is a brief trough in the South China Sea. Nothing on this run. I can go to a previous one, see if anything popped up here. Not really. Something beyond the 10-day range near the Philippines, but nothing to be concerned about in the near term, thankfully. Our focus is going to be shifting from Matmo to then Halong. Hello Zen, how are you doing? Mackenzie asks, how much rainfall in the Philippines? We can look at the rainfall accumulations here on the runs. Let's look at the next 5 days or so. I think that's a fair time frame to look at. So portions of northern Luzon, at least on the European run, mainly Luzon, gets in at around 10 to up to 50 millimeters of rain. Whereas the central Philippines and the Visayas region gets at around 10 to up to 100 millimeters of rain. Then portions of Mindanao could see, again, totals of around 30 to 100 millimeters over the next 5 days. American run showing generally same amount of totals, but areas in Mindanao, I believe that's Mindanao. Let me just double check. Doesn't really show it there. Anyways, rainfall totals there could see up to 100 accumulations of up to 125 millimeters of rain. The German run here showing less totals for portions of northern Luzon, but again, totals of anywhere between 50 to 100 millimeters of rain. And if we look at the access model here, again, showing a similar story here, but some areas near Siocon could see up to 150 millimeters of rain, and areas offshore could see up to 200 millimeters of rain. And of course, some of those mountainous regions could see up to 200 millimeters of rain as well. Let's see. Zen asked, on 28W, we discussed with my friends earlier that we discussed its environment in those high pressure area in Taiwan. That's why we're experiencing so much hot temperatures right now in Luzon and most of the country. Let's take a look at the temperature anomalies here. Let's see. Let me just look at the temperatures like for you all in the Philippines. Okay, some areas does get quite cool, relatively speaking. But looking at the extreme forecast here, temperature is not too hot. It is going to be warmer than average for some areas of far northern Luzon there. And in the coming days, could be slightly above average for Luzon, but nothing too extreme. Now, areas by Taiwan and Shanghai, China, are experiencing record breaking temperatures here, especially near just south of Shanghai. Getting fairly hot here. I'm going to look at how hot that actually is, though, briefly. Where's the temperature here? 80 degrees, up to around 28 degrees Celsius here, but that might not be the actual peak there. Okay, yep. Totals or temperatures in the 80s. Just checking. Okay, yep. Yeah, things could be in the 90s to 100s there for parts of China there, eastern China. So that's why we're seeing above average temperature anomalies here. And looking for the next few days as well, and tomorrow there, or today on the 5th here, Shanghai experiencing record breaking temperatures. So it is going to be very hot for you all in there, portions of Shanghai. Next few days there, in the East China Sea could see warmer than average temperatures, but yeah, record breaking temperatures expected for Shanghai throughout today. Mindanao. 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 Okay. We discussed that Pagasa noted 8 a.m. That's 28W is moving southward slowly. Let's take a look at the satellite imagery on that system. On Halong. Doesn't really look like it's moving to the south. It's moving to the west, it looks like. So it does appear that it is a little bit sheared on the western side. Not seeing it too bad. Yeah, okay, I am seeing it on this over here. So yeah, I am seeing that it is getting westerly shear right now. That's why all the thunderstorms are off towards the east of the center. Is Halong going to enter the Philippine area of responsibility before it exits it? Let me take a look at the latest Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast on that system. Now, the Philippine area of responsibility stops at around, I think, 25 degrees north and 130 west, or I don't remember exactly how far out it stretches. I think most likely it's going to stay to the north. I think that this is where the box is located at. I may be wrong, but it looks like it's going to be to the north of that. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center cone, though, does show it a little bit closer to that, but I think it's going to be more on the northern end of this track. So I don't think it's going to enter the Philippine area of responsibility. See, Zen mentions yesterday we got severe thunderstorms in near Cavite. Also, I recorded that we got some kind of tornadic thing. Ooh, interesting. Wall cloud of some sort. Wow, it's interesting. Kenzie Chase, why not sleep yet? Well, so when I do this live coverage, and if I don't have like college tomorrow or anything big tomorrow, I will be spending my time, up in the AM hours. Like for me right now, it's around 1:35 a.m. I will be spending this time trying to give you all a live update. For you all, it's a different time zone, so I'll do my best to stay up and help you all out through this. Now, looking at some of these thunderstorms here, let's see if any more thunderstorms are expected here for parts of Luzon. I'll play this forecast here, and the time is on the bottom there. Just add an additional 12 hours to that. Okay, well, this is going by slowly. I don't know how to How do I speed this up? Okay, I do not know how to. Alright, so I'm going to fast forward here a little bit. So it seems like mainly today is going to be the day for a little bit more thunderstorms for portions of the Philippines there. Maybe we can see some of that on satellite? Not really. Oh, and yeah, you were mentioning yesterday some thunderstorms. Yep, we can see some of them earlier. We go back in time. See some of them were flaring up there. Parts of the outer bands of Matmo. All right, let's see what else. Damien says, thank you so much, Chase, honestly. Of course, yeah, and if you have any other questions about local areas you'd like to ask about, just let me know and I will do my best to cover that. But you can see where the system's forecast to go on the European run. I'll cover it on this here. So you can see the core of the system here, where it's located at. Um, let's go forward. This would be 3 p.m. This would be 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It looks like it re-enters or moves over water again into the Gulf of Tonkin there. Still has a decent storm there with those northern portions. This is 10 p.m. at this point, impacting parts of the coastal, mainly border between Guangdong and Guangxi provinces, but still pounding Leizhou there on its southeastern side. We can see some of that surge is going to be coming in from this side. And I don't know if you all prefer seeing the particles animation on this one. It doesn't show it a whole lot there, but you can see there at Leizhou Peninsula there on the southern end, southwestern end there. You can see why they're getting the surge there. Parts of Zhangjiang could be seeing some decent surge there in that bay area. Looking near up here, whatever bay this is, I'm not quite sure. But this area could see some storm surge as well, especially in parts of these coastal areas on the power plant there. But again, this is 10 p.m. on the European run. If we go a little bit further than that, this would be 11 p.m., 12 p.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. looks like between 3 and 4 a.m. making its landfall potentially as a Category 2 strength typhoon near the border between China and Vietnam, mainly though in Guangxi province. Most of that rainfall also impacting Guangxi province of China. Moving forward, this would be 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. You can see now it's starting to really lose its structure though, but still heavy rainfall is falling here. It's around 50 millimeters in 3 hours, I believe that's what this means, at least on the European run here. Then we go forward in time more. This would be Monday. Monday, let's see, this would be right here. Monday morning and then Monday night around here. You can see all those rainfall impacting portions of Vietnam. This would be around Tuesday early morning. Some more of those outer bands firing up with lots more rain parts of northern Vietnam. This would be around Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday night, now moving west into more portions of China, and then really starting to fizzle out by Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. That is the European run. Now let's discuss the American run, for example, here. All right, the American run here. Oops, sorry about that. This is 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9, 10, 11, 12. By around noon tomorrow, or around midnight tomorrow, so Monday early morning, could be making a landfall there in parts of Guangxi province. Moves inland and then quickly weakens. This is around Sunday morning into now Sunday afternoon and evening there. You can see some of those thunderstorms there having some heavy rainfall rates. Really uncertain as to where it's going to go, but yeah, you can see some pockets there of those stronger thunderstorms. All right, now looking at the German run here, this is where it was located at around, let's see, 3 p.m., 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. Again, it enters the Gulf of Tonkin there, potentially as a decently strong typhoon. 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Now this would be midnight on early Monday. 1 a.m., 2 a.m. making landfall somewhere there along Guangxi province of China. But you can see on that eastern side, north, southern, and eastern side, having very heavy rainfall rates, but especially on that eastern side, potentially pummeling parts of far southwestern Guangdong province near the border between Guangdong and Guangxi province of China there with very heavy rainfall rates. And of course, it moves further inland. This would be now Monday afternoon, and then now Tuesday morning. Parts of Vietnam getting impacted that day. Right. See what other questions. Any update on the Atlantic and the European AI model? We can take a look at that. Oops. Alright, well, we have this system which is very marginal support. I'm not seeing a whole lot on this. There is also something there in the Bay of Campeche over the next few days. But beyond that, not a whole lot there. Something maybe along the Carolinas, but that's mainly frontal, it appears. Beyond that, not seeing a whole lot. Maybe something in near central or the Caribbean, but just not really seeing a whole lot on this at all. Alright. Hi, Michael. How are you doing? Zen asks, sorry about that, trying to learn how to pronounce things. HCC, do you think more storms this end of October and early November, like possible tracks of Goni or Vamco, if this scenario happens? Well, we can take a look at that on here. If we look at the general pattern beyond this, we take a look at some of these upper level patterns. If there's anything that really speaks out to me, it's very uncertain this far out, so can't really talk too much about that, but looks like there may be a system there that tries to meander near the Philippines in mid-October. I don't know how strong that's going to be, what the environment looks like. Looks to be somewhat favorable, but maybe seeing some shear. So I can't really talk too much about that. Now, ooh, is this what we call wave breaking? Yes, it is, I believe. Let me just double check right there. Yep, so it looks like what's going to be happening over the next week or so, we're going to have this big, what we call wave breaking, where this goes up and then it dives down into a tut right here, basically an area just producing a lot of wind shear. So that's going to keep most things at bay in parts of the eastern, western Pacific, but these will meander to the west there and potentially produce some more shear across the basin there. But let's look at some of these ensemble members in the longer range. If we look at some height anomalies, oh, whoops. And nothing really calls out to me too much about late October and early November. It's too far out. I personally wouldn't be forecasting that far out. HCCF shows 99 knots. Oh well, so is it now a major typhoon? Briefly going to check on that. I'm not seeing anything just yet. I will refresh it just to check. I'm seeing 90 knots. I'm not seeing 99. But yeah, if that's the case, it would be a Category 3 major typhoon, which does make sense. That's likely either a low-end Category 2 or low-end Category 3, somewhere in between those, that range. We can see the eye there starting to near more parts of the Leizhou Peninsula there, starting to creep in on that eye, getting into those calmer conditions. Remember, if you are in that eye, that doesn't mean it's over just yet. You are going to have to go through the second half, but you could be in the eye for a little while. For example, if we look at this point right here, this area, That was around 4 hours ago, and they remained in the eye up until around. Let's see, up until around now. So some areas could be in the eye for up to 4 hours. So there will be a break from these harsh winds in the outer eye wall. Let's see here. So how far has it moved in the past hour? Looks like that. Looks like that now. Um, yeah, but yeah, you can see more areas now are in that eye than there were before. So it is nearing that landfall. If we look at some distances from certain areas, it is roughly 16 kilometers or 15 kilometers south of that island there, around 60 kilometers away from Leizhou, roughly around 46 kilometers away from where it could make landfall. Zhangjiang could see, or it's around 60 kilometers away from its center. But they are creeping in on that eye now, so they may get into those calmer conditions. Let's hope that they get a break. Um, really, the quicker it moves through, the quicker things will be done. The quicker they get into the calm, and then the quicker they'll reach the second half and then be over with it. I do want to mention, though, that storm surge will be impacting near to the east of Zhangjiang, right over here where their winds are blowing onshore. We could be seeing some bad surge in these areas, right along here. Haikui as well could be seeing a little bit of minor surge with this. I don't think we have any cameras available, but I will check. Nope. Hi Kyle, how are you doing? I'm gonna briefly check if Twitter has anything going on there. Oh, Andre was here earlier. Man, okay, I missed that. Um, how long ago was that? Okay. Oh well, so that was when I started, I think. Whoops. Okay, sorry about that. Yes. Right. Hi everyone. Okay. So yes, again though the eye of the storm is approaching the Leizhou Peninsula there, and we can see though the eye wall is currently pounding portions of the Leizhou Peninsula, mainly the entirety of it, except for the southeastern parts where the eye is currently over. But it is also pounding Haikui there in northern Hainan Island. You can see this really large outer band to the south there, how large it is, covering the entirety of Hainan Island in some rain. Um, really extends out all the way to Vietnam, even portions of the coast there near Haiphong, right in here. Some of those outer bands, though, are also near Hong Kong over here. They were impacting Hong Kong earlier, it seems like. Yep, some of those outer bands. But it seems like, fortunately, most of them have missed right there. Although Macau, where's Macau located at? There's Macau. They've been getting in at some of those impacts. Looks like some of this outer band may be impacting Macau over the next few minutes or so, even within the next 30 minutes or so. This outer band here, which could have some embedded tornadoes in it. I do want to mention that. Due to the fact they're in the outer bands, moving this direction generally, could see some possible tornadoes with that. As you see, when there's a thunderstorm here in Cavite, the winds are always shifting southwest, even though the winds are stronger east. Is that why the cumulus helps to build up so fast? I don't know what you mean. Sorry about that. Um, I don't know a whole lot about other meteorology other than tropical cyclones, especially with areas in the Philippines. So I don't really know about that. Sorry. Like I answered truthfully there. I'm just I don't know. I don't know about the wind shifts and things like that. Maybe sea breeze, things like that. But I am not entirely sure. Wind direction can change though from the thunderstorm's downdraft, or like when the rain's falling and it's a stronger thunderstorm, the winds can kind of change direction based on going away from the storm pretty much. Hello, hi kitty. Who are you? All right. Hey, HEC, do you think Matmo will more intensify before the second landfall? If it will intensify, what is the peak intensity for Matmo? I don't think it's going to intensify after that. I think it's going to be making landfall potentially as a Category 2 or 1 strength system when it gets into the Gulf of Tonkin. It all really depends on where it gets in there. Is it on the more northern trajectory and it doesn't move over the Gulf of Tonkin, or does it stay more to the south and gives it more time to weaken? This is going to be messing with its structure greatly, which is good news. It is going to weaken it. Here, if I pull up Matmo on here, makes its landfall, then really starts to weaken. So in this run, it goes from being a, let's see, major typhoon, Category 3 strength system, to by the time it enters there, only around a Category 1, but a pressure of around a Category 1 or 2. So really could be Category 1 or 2. The forecast here calls for it making landfall as a Category 2 strength system. Winds, I believe, were forecasted at around 90 knots. But if we look at the forecasted wind, like wind gust over the next few days there, really, what are the peak winds being forecasted in the Gulf of Tonkin and around the coast of Guangdong province, for example? Around 150 to 140 kilometer an hour winds for those areas, and parts of Guangxi province, the coastal areas, could see winds of 110 to 140 kilometers an hour. Of course, portions of Vietnam are going to be lower totals, or lower winds of around 50 to 130 kilometer an hour winds. Seems to be the case there. But yeah, some damaging winds will be possible wherever this center moves. Anywhere really in those yellow colors could see some damaging winds. And also, oops, I didn't include even more of these areas here, which could be experiencing it right now. Yep, kind of like that. All these areas could be experiencing damaging winds, things like power outages, trees down, those kind of things over the next few days. See, Zen mentions, I don't know for sure, but with climate change, all that kind of stuff, I don't really talk about that at all. I don't really know a whole lot about it, so if I don't know about it, I don't really discuss it. Ben Aviation says, I'm in Vietnam. How are you doing, Ben? Where are you located in Vietnam? Are you in the northern portions? If you are, you should be paying attention to the system. Could be seeing some impacts from it. But really, if you're in the southern majority of Vietnam, if you're really anywhere except for the northern portions, then you should be fine. Doesn't seem like there's going to be anything too threatening over the next week or so. It doesn't seem like anything's going to be headed your direction. I'm in Hanoi. Okay. Let's see where that is located at. I'll pull it up on here. Hanoi there. Ooh, okay, so you could see some impacts from the system. Highlighted on here, I believe I highlighted it in the marginal color there. So you could see marginal impacts from it, not a whole lot. But you should still be paying attention to it. Wind gusts could reach up to 40 kilometers an hour. That's on the European run. American run showing, when it loads, lower totals around, or lower rain, or sorry, lower winds of only up to 30 kilometers an hour. In the German run, showing similar things, around 30 to 40 kilometer an hour wind gusts will be possible over the next day or so. But if we look at some of the rainfall accumulations here, they could see a fair amount of rain. On the European run, it gives accumulations of anywhere between 50 and 100 millimeters of rain for Hanoi. The American run here showing totals of, again, around 50 to 75 millimeters of rain. And the German run is showing accumulations anywhere between also around 80 to 100 millimeters of rain, it appears, 110 millimeters. So really anywhere between 50 and I'd say 150 millimeters of rain will be possible for you in Hanoi, and wind gusts seem to be around 30 to 50 kilometers an hour. 2025 will not be like as 2024 with those six typhoons in 1 month. 2025 will be below than 2024. I don't know yet. There was 3 months yet left. Yeah, I don't really talk about those forecasts because I mean things can change in an instant when talking about the Western Pacific and what happens. And I briefly want to touch on Halong here because some areas could see wind or rainfall totals up to 500 millimeters where the system goes. Depends on where it stalls and how strong it gets. American run showing lower totals, and the European run, I believe, was showing higher totals there. Yep, up to, again, up to 500 millimeters of rain. And let's look at some of the wind forecasts from the system. Again, wherever the system goes, it does have the potential to have very strong wind gusts. The European run here showing 250-kilometer-hour wind gusts will be possible where it moves through. If it strikes the Ryukyu Islands, they could be seeing major impacts, up to 230-kilometer-hour wind gusts out of this system. The American run here does curve it out to sea more, so not really impacting the areas too badly. Tokyo could see up to 70-kilometer-hour wind gust on this run. And the German run, though, does show it even stronger than the others, with wind gusts up to 270 kilometers an hour, with parts of eastern Japan getting up to 200 kilometer an hour wind gust. So yes, this is going to be a system that we'll need to be watching over the coming days. Could threaten portions of Japan, which looks quite scary on some of these runs. Just gotta hope it curves out to sea and doesn't impact Japan directly. So again, if you have any questions about your local area or where you're from even, and you want to know about those rainfall accumulations and things like that, wind gusts, just let me know in the chat and I will gladly answer. Now let's take a look at some of the model runs over the next few days. This is from the American run here, and it is showing it's remaining a typhoon making landfall in Guangxi province of China. But let's look at Halong here in this longer range forecast. Becomes a major typhoon and skirts just to the southeast of Japan, a very near miss. And beyond that, nothing really happens over the next 10 days. Let's look at the Canadian run. Let me just make sure all the runs are here. Yep. Let's look at the Canadian run here. It does have its weakening slightly, making a landfall in Guangxi province as a typhoon. But let's look at on the other storm there. There's two storms that do a Fujiwara interaction, is what it's called, when they dance around each other. This one stalls in, but fortunately moves away from Japan. The European run here does have Halong becoming a major typhoon, moving across the Ryukyu Islands of Japan before stalling near Japan there. I could see very heavy rainfall totals, at least from this. Let's take a look at how high those rainfall totals would be if it stalled. There we go. Could see rainfall totals up to 708 to 820 millimeters of rain being shown on this model run. Even 840 millimeters seems like that was the max. 850 millimeters of rain would be possible, depending on how much it stalls. So definitely something we'll need to be watching over the coming days, as it's very close for comfort to Japan. Again, though, the models are very uncertain as to where exactly it's going to go. Is it going to curve out to sea early? Is it going to curve out to sea later and skirt right by Japan, or is it going to go right through the Ryukyu Islands and stall in the East China Sea? Someone asked, what category is Matmo? Matmo is likely either a low-end Category 2 all the way up to a low-end Category 3, so still a nearly a major typhoon. That's why there's the possibility of major impacts already going on in portions of the Leizhou Peninsula. It's uncertain telling how strong it is. We'll have a much better idea once we get more of these surface observations, because I believe its center may go over a weather station. Okay, is it not going to pop up? Whoops. Alright, but anyways, it looks like its center may go over one of these weather stations, and that will give us more data on how strong it was. But looks to be around a Category 2 or 3. The low end, or the high end, is Category 3 because, like, look at the structure here. Solid eyewall, solid core, solid everything about it on here. But looking at the more in-depth imagery here, the infrared imagery from space, we can see it doesn't look as great as it could. Now notice how there was a decent convective burst there for parts of the southern areas of Leizhou, and you can see that on this color here becoming a lot more orange. There are a lot more intense winds. Now that's also going to be impacting parts of Haikui and northern Hainan. Some of those wind gusts already got up to 104 kilometers an hour. It peaked at around 115 kilometers an hour, so you have very strong winds in portions of northern Hainan Island. And I do want to see how that compares to the wind accumulation, if that seems like it's a good estimate or so. Yeah, winds of up to 100 kilometers an hour on that. Yeah, could see max of up to 135 kilometers an hour, so yeah, that seems like that's about right. But again, portions of Leizhou could see anywhere from 130 kilometers an hour up to even 200 kilometer an hour wind gust from the system. Let's see. HEC, do you think the Philippines, the Philippine Pacific or west of the Philippines, do you think we'll have a La Nina for at least 2 months? I don't know. I don't forecast long range stuff. Sorry about that. Ben asked, will Matmo be stronger or weaker when in Vietnam? Well, it doesn't. Well, by the time it reaches Vietnam, at least on this forecast here, it does have it as a weaker system. Category 2 here, tropical storm here, and then at least by where the center enters the center of this forecast cone. Remember, 2/3 of the time it will stay in this cone. 1/3 of the time it will meander outside of it and just doesn't know where it goes. But 2/3 of the time it should stay in this forecast here. The center does forecast it to enter Vietnam very briefly as a either weak tropical storm or a stronger tropical depression. Still a tropical cyclone though. But it will be a weaker system by the time it enters Vietnam. We might be able to see that on this model run. Yeah, by the time it enters Vietnam on this model run, it's a much weaker system there. Winds are only around tropical storm force, whereas earlier it was a Category 2 or 3 typhoon, so it is expected to weaken rather quickly by the time it enters the Gulf of Tonkin and then eventually makes landfall. Can see, though, there is some decent... Oh, well, the gusts there are going to be quite strong as well, though. Could see some gale force gust or damaging gusts there. But I do want to touch on the vorticity there. You can see a very clear center there meandering into Vietnam, more northern portions of Vietnam. Zen says, wow, congrats on 3.11 thousand subscribers, Chase. Thank you all so much for that, okay? I want to emphasize that again. Thank you all so much for that. That's been a dream come true, seeing all the support recently, and how really it's just all these live streams I've been doing has been paying off. I really thank you all so much for supporting me as much as I've been trying to help you all. I really appreciate it. Ben says Vietnam's gotten 8 typhoons now. Wow. Yeah, it feels like it's just been one after another. That makes sense. It's been crazy recently. Andrew asked, what is the peak intensity of Halong? Possible Category 5. It is possible for it to become a Category 5. Let's take a look at the Google AI ensembles. Current peak intensity under my forecast is 115 knots, so low-end Category 4. Although this could be adjusted higher or lower in the upcoming forecast cones. But if we look at the Google AI ensembles here, and we see what they want out of it, terms of Category 5, it is possible. Some of those members do show Category 5 here. That would be around 5 of them, so around a 10% chance it becomes a Category 5. So it definitely is possible. The strongest one has it becoming a 155 knot typhoon, so winds of around 180 miles an hour. So that is possible. That's on the higher end, though. Overall, though, it looks like it's more likely going to be a Category 3 or 4. Zen says, I've been here in your channel since 1 year now. I hope this channel grows more in the future. Thank you. Yeah, I'm guessing you were watching the streams on the Philippine Chaos last year. I'm glad, though, that I'm getting returning viewers like you. Just helping building my audience. Well, again, we are nearing a landfall. A long typhoon hit one time before in 2020. Okay. Alright. Again, if you have any questions about local areas, you can always ask them in the chat and I will gladly answer. I do want to discuss the storm surge threat again, though. How if you are on the northern end of wherever this center makes landfall, you are going to be experiencing some damaging storm surge. That's pretty much when the ocean is pushed onshore. So some of these areas, wherever the winds are blowing onshore, that's basically causing the sea level to rise and damage some areas, especially in this bay. Could see some problems right here in the Shandong Bay. Could see some problems there due to just the winds pushing all that water into that bay, nowhere else for it to go, and so it can inundate certain areas. Problem, though, is once it gets into the, as you can see, though, really only impacting this portion of the Leizhou Peninsula. Everywhere else, it's really not blowing onshore. It's blowing parallel to the coast, mostly. But if we look at the future of this system, and we take a look at the wind forecast for it, here we can see that thing, we can see it start to shift. Why is this covered? I'm not quite sure how this works exactly, but yeah, here, I'll give it a refresh. Maybe that will make it work. Okay, that didn't work. We can see, though, that the winds... Okay, whoops. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know why Windy crashed. Anyways, as we see, though, as it moves over the Leizhou Peninsula and its center is located right around here, again, those winds are going to be changing direction more towards Zhangjiang, and out towards the west, not really a problem, but southern Leizhou Peninsula, there could be seeing some decent storm surge. For Hainan Island, it mostly parallels the coast, not too much of a problem there. At this point, the problem mainly becomes near Zhangjiang and portions of southern Leizhou. By the time it enters the Gulf of Tonkin, though, it then shifts again to western Leizhou there, right through here. Really, most of western Leizhou, and then also portions of southwestern Guangdong province. And this is really when it's impacting Zhangjiang, going straight to the north. And then moving forward in time, you can just see how the surge will always be impacting wherever it makes landfall into the east, where all these winds are blowing onshore, pushing that water inland. see here. Can you explain why Yolanda jumps from Category 1 to Category 5? I don't know which storm you're talking about. It's weird because Zen mentions it's weird because strong typhoons now hit China instead of the Philippines, which is good in the Philippines when hitting Category 1 or severe tropical storm. Yeah, there hasn't really been anything too bad in the Philippines recently in terms of what it could have been. Of course, we haven't had Bualoy, we've had. Well, actually, never mind, I'm mistaken. We've had, of course, Regassa, so really, they haven't been fully spared, unfortunately. Unfortunately, this basin hasn't been spared either. We were almost going to go the whole year without a Category 4, and then everything started happening all at once. Looks like we're going to get now a third Category 4 out of Halong. Ben asks, can Matmo be stronger? As in, like, can it be stronger right now? It could be. It's probably peaking right now, is what I'd say. As a Category 3, low-end Category 3, and it is going to be begin to weaken right as it's making its landfall. Dark Steve says, I've been watching your channel for nearly 2 years now. Congrats on your success. Thank you, Dark Steve. Are you in my Discord server? I'm just curious about that. Maybe you are, and I haven't been paying it much attention. Andrew asks, HEC, do you know when Regassa made landfall in Hong Kong? It's at Category 8 because the maximum strength of Hong Kong is Category 10. It didn't make landfall directly in Hong Kong. Dark Steve, if you ever want to join, there's a link in the description on my animations. Andrew, in the reason Haiyan intensified, I believe it's just the environment was very pristine. You can just have a lot of oceanic heat content, things like that, and you can explode in intensity. Hello, Typhoon Lover, welcome back. And we are fairly close to a landfall now. With this system, could be making a landfall even quicker than this forecast shows. I'll decrease that by around 10 minutes, so bring that count down to 25 minutes. It looks like we're going to be seeing a landfall any moment now, within the next under 30 minutes from now. Will Matmo be a Category 3? It could be a 1 right now. But by the time it enters the Gulf of Tonkin, it should be a Category 2 or 1, especially by the time it makes landfall. Its next landfall should be a Category 2 or Category 1. Man, yep, that island is completely in the eye, and we can see that on visible imagery as well. Look at how big that eye is and how clear some portions of it are, but really swirling around. All those mesovortices are what we call them. You just see them all swirling around in there. And yeah, you can also see some of those convective bursts there, those bursts of cloud starting to move over parts of southeastern Leizhou and central Leizhou Peninsula. Will Matmo be a Category 4 super typhoon? I don't think so. Definitely not. It's making landfall now, so it's stunting its intensification. Now the question of can Halong be a Category 4? Definitely, and I believe that that's the most likely scenario here. Again, the forecast cone here by me calls it becoming a Category 4 within the next 3 days, and remaining a Category 4 through day 4 before weakening to a Category 2 on day 5. So it does look like it will become a Category 4. Looking at the Google AI ensembles here on it, again, the general consensus is Category 4 out of it, winds of around 115 knots, so minimal Category 4. But out of this, looking at how many members show it becoming a Category 4 or 5, this would be around 29 of them, so that would be around a Um, let's see, 58% chance of it becoming a Category 4 or stronger. So around a 60% chance of it becoming a Category 4 or 5. I think Josh is going again in Guangdong for Matmo, but I think he's not. I don't know what he's doing. Matmo was expected to be majored 2 days ago, yes. Andrew, I haven't really looked into Goni that much for reanalysis. I will probably, though, eventually do that analysis. Um, well, I did do analysis on Goni, but not more in-depth analysis. I don't remember what my next animation will be. I already finished the 2013 Western Pacific animation. So after I finish the real life animations, I don't know what I'm going to animate next. I know I made a list of them. But yeah, looking at my animations just real quick. Yeah, the last one was 2013 Western Pacific. Was the last one I spent time reanalyzing. But the one I went the most in depth on was 2017's animation in the North Atlantic. So, um, in terms of what my next animation is going to be, I'm not sure. I believe it's probably going to be a Western Pacific one or North Atlantic one. I'll have to look more into that. Bro gained 110 subscribers in 2 days. Yes. Um, wait, really? Is that accurate? This is just insane, the growth I've gotten recently. Thank you guys so much. Again, thank you so much for this. Let's see. Yesterday I got 47 subscribers, and the day before that 33 subscribers. So that would be 90 or hold on. Let's see. 80 subscribers in 2 days. That's been insane. Andrew says HCC animate Bualoy. Well, I have a poll up that I'll do another one for after Neoguri's animation is out. And I will do another poll on Sunday, probably discussing what animation would you guys like to see next. Yeah, I might wait. I might wait a little bit longer before releasing that poll, depending on what Halong does. Now let's see. Is it expected to remain on Sunday as a storm? Potentially. So may not be animating Halong. Yeah, looks like it could be still a storm during Saturday, so not going to be animating Halong just yet. Yeah, 1997 was one of them that I was thinking about, Ben. Thank you for mentioning that. Every animation premiere is 12 a.m. Monday for me, yes. It's just the difference with time zones, things like that. 24-hour difference. Actually, I'm making an animation to Regassa 2025 Western Pacific. Nice. Is Halong expected to become an extratropical storm? Yes. If it meanders to the northeast, it is going to have to merge with a front eventually. So, yes. Looks like it will become a post-tropical cyclone. Don't know where it's going after that. If we look at the European AI model, we can get probably a better idea as to where it's going. Yeah, because there it is. There's its fronts. You can see that little red thing that stubs out from the center. That's its front there. So it's no longer a tropical cyclone. It's an extratropical cyclone and speeds off towards Alaska. Looks like. In terms of pressure, let's see if that's still the same storm. Yeah, it looks like it nears Alaska potentially over the next 7 days of this. So that's something to be watching out for. I'm curious about this other storm here. Let me go back a little bit more in time. Yep, so Storm Amy is a different storm there. And Imelda, that's the same storm there. I was wondering if Umberto was still Storm Amy, but no, it's not. The 2025 hypothetical animation got 15,000 views in 13 days. Insane. Yes, that has been the most amount of views I've gotten in that short amount of time. So I want to thank you all so much for that. But I also want to mention the fact that the real life animation for the 2024 animation, Western Pacific, has gotten 4.8 thousand views in the past 48 hours. So that's around 2.4 thousand views in a day. That's pretty insane for me. That's blown up a lot recently. That it will become my most popular animation very soon. Yes. Okay. Just taking a look at that content here. Regasa got 5.1 thousand views in 6 days. Yeah, that's very impressive. Thank you all so much for your support on that. But I mean, it's just been very impressive how many views that animation that I worked on 8 months ago is now getting. So I really thank you all so much for your support. It's now at 30,000 views, and my most popular animations are at 31,000. So this will beat it by tomorrow. Uh, what if I start posting animations, HEC? Go for it. Go for it. Love seeing new people joining the animation community. Andrew says, HEC, can you animate next Matmo to be explained why it became a typhoon before landfall in the Isabella? Doesn't really explain it, but I can animate that. I will do another poll about that, and then you can vote in that poll that I'll make. Now we are nearing landfall. We're around 15 minutes away from a landfall somewhere here in portions of Leizhou, or yeah, Leizhou, in Leizhou Peninsula. Looks to be like a major typhoon, but this will probably be adjusted in the post-analysis on it. Is Gabrielle the first Portugal landfall since Alpha 2020? I'm not sure. Because it is post-tropical at that time, so I'm not sure. But look at that. The entire island is in that eye, completely experiencing very calm conditions. Maybe some gusty winds, I'd say. The eye is moving around very quickly there, so I mean it is what we call this a truck tire eye because of how large it is, and you can just see how large of a storm it is in terms of its eye wall and all of its convection around it. We call it a truck tire, and just how disorganized the eye looks as well. Zen, what do you use to animate? And Typhoon Lover says the Atlantic is starting to wake up. Eh. Mainly just have this disturbance, and that's about it. Not really waking up a whole lot. Just gonna get another disturbance here, and then maybe see something else in the Central American Gyre area. Maybe see something. I'm not sure though. Other basins are waking up though, like the Eastern Pacific has woken up. As you see, are there any next low pressure areas after 95W in the coming days? Nope, I don't really think so. If we look at the Google AI ensembles here, we can see where this system is, and we can see where 95W is going. But beyond that, maybe something tropical developing near the South China Sea. Um, this thing, but not really any support at all. Maybe just a couple ensembles showing something, and one showing it becoming a Category 4. Of course, nearly Category 5 on that run. But beyond that, not really seeing a whole lot there. Some more support there, but it's very far out, so I wouldn't put too much stock in it. Um, Again, it seems It seems like there will be a break over the next week for the Philippines. So enjoy it while it lasts. And Typhoon Lover, first named storm in the North Indian Ocean on October is insane. There have been many tropical cyclones in the basin this year, just have not been designated. Okay. Typhoon Carmen, those are the largest I ever recorded. I'm not sure. So yes, we are nearing that landfall, very close to the center, kind of going over land there. Don't know what I'd count as the landfall here. Maybe one of these islands, something like that. Now here, I'd like to see if we have any more high resolution imagery on the storm. No, okay, they're focusing on this system for some reason. Beautiful convective burst, though, over the center there. Seeing it just starting to develop and form a bunch more thunderstorms. Very satisfying to see. Okay, Zen, you do use hit film. Yes. I don't know about the keyframes and all that kind of stuff with hit film lagging for you. Is Paolo going to be an extratropical storm if it moves to the north? No, Matmo is going to be plowing into um, China there, Guangxi province, and becoming a remnant low. It's post-tropical, but it's a remnant low. And it's expected to dissipate over land. The main difference is it's not connected to a front. Like, it doesn't have a cold front, warm front, anything like that. It's just a tropical area of low pressure. Things like you get in the Philippines, low pressure areas. Alright, now, let's see here. About landfall timing, it's around 10 minutes from now, so briefly I'm just going to go over the broad overview of tropics, when the next live stream is going to be, things like that. So from least threatening to most threatening, Imelda's going out to sea, not impacting anyone. Octave is also going out to sea, not impacting anyone. Shakti also going out to sea, not impacting anyone. So nothing really to worry about with those systems. Now, let's see, O1b is currently threatening Nepal, but it is expected to dissipate soon. Let's see what else we've got going on. 95W looks like it's going to be curving out to sea. Doesn't seem like it's going to be much of a threat to Japan. Priscilla is going to be meandering near Baja California as a possible hurricane. This North Atlantic disturbance could be nearing parts of the Leeward Islands over the coming days. May see a video update on that over the coming days. Same for Priscilla. I'm not sure though. There's an area of interest over here along the coast of Mexico. Could see an update on that as well. Now the most likely update will be on either Matmo. If not tomorrow, then it'd be. I don't really think it's going to be in 48 hours. It's going to be a remnant low. So I'm not sure by tomorrow. I don't think there's going to be an update. So I don't think the next update's going to be on that. The next update will most likely be on Halong. Which that might happen over the next 2 days or so. So that's when the next stream will be. Zen says I'm getting bored now. It's 2:22 p or 2:28 p.m. 2:22 I don't know what I was saying there. Anyways, let's see. Here it's hotter than I expected in October. Typhoon Lover says they have school tomorrow. All right. So again, we are very close to that landfall. In fact, I'll cut that time down to 5 minutes, because why not? And by the time we reach the next minute, I'll cut it down to 4 minutes there. We are very close to a major typhoon landfall. Of course, the tradition is a landfall sound effect on major typhoons or major cyclones, major tropical cyclones, category 3, 4, or 5s. So I'm going to be playing a sound effect for this system. Alright, about to adjust the time. I just have to time it just right. Bam. Yep, nearly got that there on the correct time. So now 4 minutes there, so at 2:35 p.m. looks like it's going to be when it makes its landfall. High-Yin says the typhoon is going to hit Vietnam, but it is freaking hot and the weather is still beautiful at the moment. It doesn't seem like it's going to directly strike Vietnam. Maybe if it goes on the southern end of the forecast, could make landfall. So will there be impacts in Vietnam? Yes, especially the northern portions of Vietnam, wherever the center goes. Will there be direct landfall? I don't think so. And you mentioned the weather is hot. Let's look at some of the extreme forecast briefly. Oh, well, yes, it is hotter than normal for portions of Vietnam there. So, yes, I can see what you mean by it being hot. And then tomorrow or today it's as well there, but then it cools down a bit before getting warmer again. So, yeah, I can see why the complaints are happening there. Shanghai, though, has it really bad with record-breaking temperatures right now. Whoops, did not mean that. There we go. This. Wish I could kind of like, speed this up, speed this loop. Just doesn't want to be sped up. Let me do this instead. This kind of does a decent job showing its loop over the past 24 hours. Where it's gone. There it is, very close to its landfall. Within the next 2 minutes, we're going to be seeing a landfall out of this system. Why the cone of uncertainty for Matmo gets smaller. The reason for that cone there being smaller is just due to the cone of uncertainty there, the center cone, basically means where's it expected to be, the center of it. This is what's used by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, all these other agencies like this one, for example. But the cone gets smaller as you get closer in time because uncertainty grows the farther out you are. Does it go this way? Does it go that way? That kind of thing. That's why the cone enlarges. It's uncertainty. That's what that means. So that's why the cone gets smaller. Now you don't want to pay attention to the cone for your impacts. That's why I even make this graphic in the first place, showing these colors, letting you know what kind of threat level of impacts are you going to get. Anyways, we are very close to a landfall now. And let me get ready to play that sound effect. Real quick, whoops, I realize that I'm not in a call real quick, so I need to join one. Let me just join this one and then I'll use the soundboard thingy. There we go. Okay. In around 20 seconds or so, I will get this up right here. Getting ready to play the sound effect. Within the next 15 seconds, we should be seeing a landfall. And there we go. Okay. Category 3 landfall out of Typhoon Matmo, which is a major typhoon delivering major impacts for portions of this is the Leizhou Peninsula. Anyways, I have learned new stuff on how to pronounce Leizhou and Zhangjiang there, so this has been interesting. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Again, the next update likely won't be on this system, although there will likely be a new cone being issued on this system as well as Halong, though. So if you want to stay up to date on that, be sure to follow me on Twitter or X or Facebook or Blue Sky, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can see more of these updates of tropical cyclones across the globe. Well, anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next update. Stay safe.